Hi and welcome to our second video lesson on parallelism in grammar. And today we're going to learn about verb tenses. Now I believe that you are not unfamiliar with tenses. I think you have heard many times your primary school teacher or any of your teachers, English teachers, okay, your English teacher would have emphasize this over and over again, and this could even be one of the most common errors that you make in your writing. Okay, but today I'm going to present it to you in a way that is slightly different. Okay, I'm not really teaching you every single tense in English grammar, because that is actually very basic, and if you need that if you need help in the basic knowledge of verb tenses, okay, I think I will make a video on that maybe next time. Okay, but this video is meant for most secondary school students who already understand, you kind of already know that there are different types of tenses like present tense, past tense, and even things like present continuous or even perfect tenses. So you're not unfamiliar. It's just that when it comes to application, you still make mistakes and you wonder why. Firstly, we have only three main tenses in our language. Now, some grammarians, okay, grammarians are people who like to study grammar a lot, okay, some grammarians even say that we only have two, and that the future tense is non-existent, it's just formed using a modal verb, blah, blah, blah. Okay, the definitions are not important. All right, I think for you, it's easier for me to say that there are three, because a lot of you learned something called a future tense when you were in primary school. So I think it still makes sense, even though the idea of having only two tenses is also quite logical. But I'm not going to confuse you with so many different definitions. Let's stick with three. Okay, so for now we will just say that we have three main tenses. Okay, but within each main tense we have different types of tenses. Like we do have something called simple past, past continuous, past perfect. So same for present tense, simple present, present continuous, present perfect, and so on. Okay, but when we talk about tenses in this video, when we talk about shifting tenses, we are talking about shifting across these three main tenses. We are not talking about shifting within the same main tense. A quick revision, okay? Now, when we talk about tenses, we can't help but think about regular verbs and irregular verbs, because when you form tenses, you change the spelling of the verb, pronunciation as well. So you need to know what verb you're dealing with. Okay, you need to know the different forms of the verb in order for you to form tenses effectively. So if you still need more help in this area, you can watch, you can find other resources online about basic grammar, okay, or you can just check with me when you see me in class. All right, so let's say okay, we have three main tenses like what I mentioned just now. Okay, these are the three main tenses: past, present, future. And within each main tense you can have four different variations of that same main tense. You can have simple past, past continuous, past perfect, past perfect continuous. Okay, as shown in this table. Now, whenever you use a perfect tense, okay, past perfect tense, for example, you will end off with the past participle. Okay, past participles of regular verbs are the same as the simple past tense. Just add eds. All right. If whenever you want to form the continuous tense, you will add ing, and this ing form is also what we call the present participle. Now, if you are given an irregular verb, or if you're writing an irregular verb, okay, then you will notice that the spelling can, be very different. Okay, it's not just a matter of adding an ed. Okay, sometimes the spelling looks completely different. Like in this case, okay, present tense of give is gave. Okay, we don't add a d or an ed behind. We change the vowel, in fact, inside the word. Okay, so and the past participle form is given. Okay, but for present participle or the continuous form is always with the ing, so that is very standard, that's very consistent in our language. But when it comes to past participle, when we need to use the perfect tense, we need to use the past participle form. Past participle form can change, okay, can vary. When you have irregular verbs, typically you end with ed, en, okay. If you have a regular verb, typically you end with an ed, okay. But when dealing with irregular verbs, we do have lots of exceptions, lots of cases where we don't end off with en or ed. Okay, this is the main focus of my lesson today. Now, shifting tenses to indicate changes in time frames. Alright, helps reader to follow the sequence of events. Now, understand this, tenses are there to help us have a sense of time. I understand that this may be a little bit difficult for some of us because some of us, we are used to speaking in our mother tongues, okay, and in many Asian languages, okay, like Mandarin, okay, we don't have tenses, okay, there's no such thing as tenses. We typically use other ways to indicate time. We don't change the form of our verbs, and I think this is the same in many other Asian languages. I can't speak for all Asian languages because I only know Chinese, okay, but yeah, I mean, for English, okay, and many European languages, there is something called tenses, okay, and to indicate change in time frame, we can use tenses to show that, you know, something, an event happens before another event, okay, or an event happens after another event. We can use tenses to show, all right. Now, if you use your tenses appropriately to indicate changes, it is actually helpful. But if you shift your tenses for no reason, it confuses your readers and make you appear like a terrible writer. So if you, let's say you're writing a composition, okay, for the examination, and you just shift your tenses, and the examiner can't see why are you shifting your tenses, our conclusion is that you don't know your grammar. So you are just dumping verbs without much thought. You have no idea what is a present tense or past tense, okay? So don't make the examiner penalize you for shifting verb tenses, because this is an error that can be easily avoided. All right. Okay, let's do some error analysis. The students sat down and eat their burgers. Now, I have listed down the verbs used in the sentence that I showed you just now. Sat down and eat. Sat down is written in the past tense, okay? This is the past tense of sit. Eat, we know, is a present tense. So, as you can see, one is in the past, one is in the present, and there's no good reason for us to change the tense because it seems like both events are happening in the same time frame, right? So there's no reason to change the tense, all right? So this is an error, and we will have to correct it. And this is the corrected version of the sentence. The students sat down, past tense, and ate their burger. So both verbs are now in the past tense because, well, both events happen in the same time frame. So we should keep our tenses consistent. Another example, it is Tom's birthday and Jane decided to bake a cake for him. Okay, so let's list down the verbs. Okay, you help us to analyze the verb tenses, okay, easily. Alright, so these are the verbs used in the sentence that I showed you in the previous slide. So we have two verbs, is and decided. Okay, so I did not include any fake verbs. So if you have forgotten what fake verbs are, I encourage you to watch the video about fake verbs. Okay, so when considering tenses, we don't have to consider fake verbs, remember that. Alright, so is in present tense, decided is in past tense. Again, why? Why the change in tense? Now, if you have no answer to why you are changing your tense, chances are it's an inappropriate shift in tense. It's an error. So don't shift your tenses for no good reason. So I have changed the verb from is to was. Now you have both in the past tense, and the sentence is now parallel. The sentence is now correct and error-free. Okay, your teacher will not underline your sentence. Let's look at another example, slightly longer. Presently, we have 20 members in our club, and we had recruited another 10 to join us starting next week. Okay, let's list down the verbs. Okay, so we have two verbs. in this sentence, again, I did not list down the fake verb. Alright, because we don't have to consider fake verbs when we are considering verb tenses, okay, because they are fake. Okay, so if you have forgotten what fake verbs are, go and check out that video on fake verbs, okay. Now we have two tenses here, okay, present tense and past tense. Now in fact, right, this is the more specific tense over here. If you really want to be very specific, okay, you will call this past perfect tense. Nevertheless, it is still past tense, okay? It still belongs to the main tense, okay? The main tense is still past tense, okay? That's what I'm trying to say. So you have one in the present tense, one in the past. There's no good reason for us to change the tense. Now, if you want to show that the recruitment happened some time ago, okay, you can use the present perfect tense, okay? Okay, this is the corrected version of the sentence. So I have changed the past perfect to present perfect so that both tenses stay within the same time frame. Now the present perfect tense has an effect. When we use present perfect tense, we are trying to describe an event that spans over two time frames, like from the past and spill over into the present moment. Okay, so it is a better choice, okay, of tense here. Now past perfect is used to indicate something that is further back into the past. That means the past of the past, if you understand what I'm trying to say. Alright, so over here it's not appropriate to use the past perfect. Okay, it's much better to keep within the same main tense because everything is happening in the same time frame. Now that being said, right, it doesn't mean that we don't shift tenses at all. Now don't get me wrong, we do shift tenses. But I would say most of the time our tenses should be consistent. Say in a written piece of work, a story, a recount, or a report, a speech. Okay, typically we will have a main tense. Okay, but there will be occasions where we need to shift our tenses. Okay, so I'm going to show you an example, a paragraph here. Okay, a very short paragraph here that shows you how shifting tenses can help the reader to figure out the sequence of events. Okay, so let's read. Tom makes it a habit to revise his work every day. Now, because this event is something that happens every day, so we use the present tense makes. Right? Next sentence, even though he had a badminton tournament last week. Okay, so we change our tense, we shift our tense from present to past because the first sentence, okay, in the first sentence we're trying to describe an event that happens on a daily basis in the current time frame, present time frame. But in the second sentence we want to talk about something that happened, okay, some time ago. So it makes sense to change it to the past tense, okay? And notice that because for the events that happen in the past, we use the past tense. So both had and did, okay, they are in the past tense because he did not break the routine. This event also belongs to the past time frame, okay? And next week, now we're moving to the future. Okay, so we use the future tense. He will be sitting, okay, future continuous. All right, he will be sitting for the final term exam, okay. And then in the last sentence, okay, you see that there are two tenses in the same sentence. Now this is, okay, I would say that, you only do this when you're very sure that it makes sense, okay. So over here we have present tense verb is and future tense will do. So we have different main tenses in the same sentence. Okay, but in this case, it is used appropriately. You're trying to say that currently he is confident. Now, your exam is next week, but you can feel confident about your exam right now. Okay, so he is confident that he will do very well. Now, he will only sit for the exam next week, so you can't say he is confident that he does very well. You must say he is confident that he will do very well. That means he is confident that next week, 1 week later, he will be able to do it very well. Okay, let's summarize. Okay, every piece of writing has a main tense, usually past or present. Very seldom do we write in future tense, okay, as our main tense. So when it comes to errors in verb tenses, okay, majority of the errors arise because students jump from the past to present or present to past without any reason, okay? Just a very rough guide on using your tenses, okay? This is not very detailed, it's just maybe just a reminder for you. Now, when you're writing stories or trying to recount an event that happened in the past, you should use the past tense. Now, when you're describing routines, things that are happening on a daily basis, I mean, things that are still currently happening at a fixed interval of time, okay? Or when you're stating facts, or you're creating an effect of events happening at the present moment as a storytelling technique. There are stories written in the present tense, okay, but typically in school we don't encourage our students to do that because, to be honest, past tense is much easier to deal with. Okay, because if you remember our lesson on subject-verb agreement, I mentioned that when it comes to past tense, we almost don't have to pay attention to subject-verb agreement because many of the verbs in past tense, they don't have a singular form or a plural form. They all look the same. All right. So when you're writing stories, together with the other teachers, I would like to encourage you to use the past tense. Okay. Now, avoid the shift of tenses from past to present or vice versa. That means from past to present or from present to past for no good reason. Okay, this is really the main takeaway for this video lesson. Okay, so I have come to the end of this lesson on verb tenses. I hope it has helped you a little bit more in terms of choosing the right tense for your writing. Most of the time it's choosing between past or present. That's all. Okay, so don't think of it as a very difficult thing to do. Alright, and I'll see you again in our next lesson.